Do you have a pen and paper? Because if you do, you can write up your own stimulus check proposal because another stimulus check bill is introduced minutes ago. Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for Afternoon's LALATE. This one's about stimulus checks in our 2-hour programming block coming up later today. Hazard pay, unemployment assistance, and rent assistance. And boy, if we didn't have enough stimulus check bills, another one's been introduced, and the president is talking about yet another one that hasn't been reduced to paper. The hot mess express is still rolling and on full wheels in Washington, and no one is getting anywhere but grandstanding with a lot of bills. This is the update for this afternoon with great news that everyone wants to give you a stimulus check. Great news that more congressmen want to give more citizens stimulus checks. And now there's universal movement to give dependents, even adult dependents, a full stimulus check. But the problem is no one can agree upon who's writing the bill. Let me go over where we are right now. You know, as of Monday, we had 2 stimulus packages that were comprehensive. Those were stimulus packages that included a stimulus check bill subsection in the bill. They were the HEROES Act and the HEALS Act. Now, we currently have other stimulus packages that were separate and apart that were never merged. Well, yesterday, as if we didn't have enough, someone thought, let's write another stimulus check bill. And sure enough, they did. If you love your morning coffee like I do, there's a new bill, unfortunately, that sounds like coffee called CAFA. I don't know how you pronounce it. CAAFA. That's the newest bill. It does not have an H in it, so that's refreshing. But what's also refreshing and great news about the bill is it proposes to do exactly what the Democrats want to do, which is give dependents a full stimulus check, even if they're adult dependents. The bad news is that it's a reduced check bill. Let me go over the details. Now, as you know, we've been talking about different amounts. I'll be getting over those in a second. But the latest new proposal is written by 3 Republicans who apparently don't agree with Mitch's bill. And those are Bill Cassidy out of Louisiana, Steve Daines out of Montana, Mitt Romney out of Utah, Marco Rubio out of Florida. That's actually 4. And they propose $1,000 as a stimulus check. They don't want to give you $1,200. They want to give you $1,000 as a stimulus check, but they want to give it to everyone. So their proposal is different than the other Republicans that they sit next to who want to give a watered-down stimulus check to dependents. They want to give a full stimulus check, but they want to have the same amount across the board. So how would this work? They're proposing $1,000 for non-dependents, $1,000 for minor dependents, and $1,000 for adult dependents. Everyone $1,000. If you're husband and wife, you would get $2,000. Number of dependents, also really quite great news as well. $1,000 husband and wife, so that's $2,000, and up to, I think it was 4 dependents. So it could be as much as $6,000 per household. A very good idea for the bill, but it's also causing you to wonder what's going on here. More about that in a second. Now, yesterday, if you didn't miss the Hot Mess Express stop further down Pennsylvania Avenue, it went to the White House, and that's where Donald Trump spoke about stimulus checks. And the president, whose remarks have been a little bit peculiar, got even more strange yesterday when he digressed from his own stimulus package written by his own cabinet members and said he wants to give you more. Unfortunately, he hasn't written a bill that gives you more. So he says, I want to give more than $1,200. Okay, sir, how about you put that in paper and write it down? You keep on saying things and you don't put it in paper. He says, I may actually go higher than that. When interviewed by ABC affiliate KMID in Texas, I'd like to see it to be very high because I love the people. I want the people to get it. Now, if this sounds familiar, it should. Several weeks ago, he slammed the Democrats for only giving a $1,200 second stimulus check bill amount to all individuals, both dependents, non-dependents, adult dependents, minor dependents. He said that wasn't very good, that amount. He wanted to give a more generous amount than $1,200. He slammed the Democrats for using $1,200 as a benchmark, and he said, you need to give more money than $1,200. We need a more generous amount. Well, who wrote the stimulus check bill? Congressional leaders? No. Steve Mnuchin, who is the president's Treasury Secretary, who's not a congressman, but is actually in the president's internal team in the cabinet, wrote the Republicans' second stimulus package, called the HEALS Act. Did the president not speak with Steve while he was writing it? Well, he wrote it and he introduced it on Monday, and he not only didn't give a more generous stimulus package, he gave a less generous stimulus package, proposing only $500 for dependents. So what's going on here? The president 2 weeks ago saying he wants to pay more than $1,200. Steve Mnuchin reduced it to $500. And then now we're on Thursday and the president said, hey, I want to give more than $1,200. Well, do it and stop talking about it, for God's sakes. Come on already. Now, the Democrats, on the other hand, have not moved, so I need to make that very clear to you. The Democrats are still at their same number, which a lot of viewers, including myself, are not happy with. The Democrats are proposing a single $1,200 check. It covers anyone, even those on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, and railroad benefits. The $1,200 check would be the same for adults as for dependents. Same amount for minor dependents as adult dependents. And the check would land in your account by the manner in which you receive your benefits, or if you're not on benefits, by the way in which the IRS has accounting for you. So the IRS knows your bank account. It would land electronically, and if they don't, it come by paper check. The date of receipt would be around mid-August, if not late August, if the bill gets passed this week or next. But is this bill going to get passed, and what's going on here? So as we sit here on a Friday afternoon, it's currently about 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, that date that Steve Mnuchin had promised to American citizens, along with his other promises, that a stimulus package bill agreement would be reached by today, and that the law would be on and that the bill would be on the president's table on Monday, signed into law, and the checks would go out shortly thereafter, is not happening. When asked about the situation, Steve Mnuchin says, we don't have agreement on anything. This is after negotiations continued overnight with Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Mark Meadows. If you increase the cost of the checks, it would certainly increase the total number of costs. I mean, thank you, Captain Obvious, says Adam Michael, Senior Policy Analyst at the Heritage Foundation. I guess they do very complicated things there. If you're going to stick it to a $1 trillion target, you would have to reduce things elsewhere. You know where you reduce things elsewhere? You reduce liability insurance, you reduce payoffs to airlines, you reduce payoffs to restaurants, you give people the checks that they need. This idea that these checks have been termed stimulus checks doesn't mean that they're actually stimulating in any way. Now that is a really good comment. This channel has been detailing really where these stimulus checks could land and where they could go. Here's the really great news. The great news is that there's that expression that I use that some people can keep on asking, what do you mean by that? On the table. Everything is literally still on the table. If you don't recall, there is a bill in the House for multiple stimulus checks, a check every month of $2,000 for 6 months. That's still on the table. It was proposed by Democrats. Some Democrats do not agree with the HEROES Act. They think a single $1,200 check is political suicide. They think it does not stimulate the economy, which it does not. They think it is cheating the American citizen, which it is. You were owed multiple checks. You were promised multiple checks in the first time around. You were on lockdown in March, April, May. So you were promised multiple checks in the CARES Act first revision. But when they went to draft the final copy, they took it out. So then come this fall, well, actually come May, when they went to draft the current proposed legislation, they also talked about multiple checks and took it out again. So you have that proposal. Then you have the HEROES Act, $1,200 for everyone. The HEALS Act, $1,200 for non-dependents and $500 for minor dependents, which is a really, really screwy concept not supported by economics. And now you have everything else that's happening. The White House saying more than $1,200, 3 leading Republicans saying, no, let's give more people checks but reduce the amount of the check. So, what's going on? The bottom line here is the following, and here comes my tirade. The bottom line is that there's a lot of showmanship going on. A lot of people trying to get themselves on the front of broadcast news. This proposal of caca, or it's caca, really. It's the latest bill. A lot of these bills are caca. The latest bill from Rubio and Mid, which is caca or casa, I don't know what it is. Is ridiculous in many regards, and here is why. Well, first of all, these stimulus check bills were supposed to have been presented in May. Why are four Republicans sitting down and getting a pen and paper and writing it in late July as we head into August? Why are you literally just proposing a stimulus check bill now when broadcast news is talking about it, when people have been waiting on their stimulus checks for months, they have lost their homes, they can't pay their meals, they can't pay their rent or insurance or electricity, and just as broadcast news is covering the subject matter, you're like, hey, here I am, I have a bill as well. Are there fireworks behind you and a showgirl carrying in the bill like she's on The Price is Right as well? Because that's sort of what it feels like, that people just want to get their face on TV to say that they have a proposal as well. Then there's a White House. Whether you call it mixed messaging or you call it lying, the White House seems to not be able to get a grasp of what's going on. In a week in which the president should be moving the legislation, it's his job to move the legislation because ultimately it's his citizens. Ultimately, his citizens need this stimulus package. He hasn't spent a lot of breath on the stimulus package debate. He's focused his attention on other subject matters this week and not talked about the stimulus check. But when talking about it, he presents things like what I said to you minutes ago, that is not reduced to a paper. So if the president wants to give you more money, then sir, do your damn job and get a pen and paper and write it out. Sir, don't have Steve Mnuchin write a bill that's not what you want. Have your cabinet member do what you want him to do. There's no indication that there's a digression or a feud between Mnuchin and Trump. It's simply one person saying he wants one thing and another person writing the bill and saying another. It's not the only time that's happened this week. As you know, coming up later today on Afternoons with LALATE, the president claims that he is going to give you rent eviction moratorium and rent eviction protection better than any Democrat, and that he's doing it currently. Irv Tamar's president, you aren't. Your stimulus package bill, again written by Steve Mnuchin, in which Steve Mnuchin promised it would have that provision in there, doesn't. So what's going on? Bottom line is, if you are watching this video and you want that stimulus check, you're wondering where that stimulus check is coming, you now have hope that you are eligible for the stimulus check, but you're wondering what this hot mess is going on with. It really is a hot mess. There's no indication that the stimulus package, which involves a lot of parts in it, is likely to get passed today. It may not get passed Monday. And ultimately, what the Democrats are clearly making clear overnight is that they are not going to piecemeal. The Republicans is trying to save faith are saying, let's do separate bills and separate divisions and do emergency actions and do emergency this. The Democrats say, no way, no how. Hell, I asked you on Mornings with LLA, which was a blockbuster, a second most watched video ever on this channel in the first 4 hours. I asked you, would you take a piecemeal deal right now and do little bits and pieces, or would you hold your ground and say, give Americans everything you want? And most of you said, hold your ground. Drop your comments below. I'd love to hear them as well on this video. Finally, this thing to digest. When we talk about stimulus checks and we talk about eviction moratoriums, there's one person who can solve this on an emergency basis right now. Yes. It's called the president. The president has the inherent authority by executive order to issue emergency stimulus checks and order the Treasury to send the funds out. The president has, during his term, made it a mantra of his ability to issue executive orders, whether they're travel bans, whether they're entries to the United States, whether they're DACA orders. He has made it his mantra that he has incredible authority to issue executive orders. But when we're here at the time of urgent need for citizens of this country, where is the action? It's simply not there. A lot of you could have gotten a stimulus check in June or May or July by executive order. It could be done this week by executive order. You could also have a rent eviction moratorium, a federal executive order issued by the president that says no state can evict you tomorrow starting 5 p.m. tonight. He could literally do that, and he's not done that. So ultimately, the blame game continues, but the great news is, one, you're going to get a stimulus check. Two, it's not clear when you're going to get the stimulus check. The stimulus check is more likely to be expanded to all minor dependents and adult dependents. That was what I reported on this channel first. I first reported that Republicans were moving to giving a full stimulus check to dependents, adult dependents, and minor dependents. We reported that on Monday, and we now know that's true because of Rubio and Romney's push. Of course, they're reducing the amount. Finally, there's a big battleground, and there's great news across the board elsewhere, with Nancy Pelosi finally saying those two key words that a lot of you asked about: hazard pay. The tone and the message is getting more on point as we come into Friday afternoon to ensure that you get a check, you get hazard pay, you get rent eviction moratorium, and you get $600 FPUC right away, right now. Stay with me for more with Afternoons with LALATE. Coming up next is hazard pay. Stay tuned and have a great afternoon.